watching Xirtus. This is because Xirtus makes you feel good, makes you feel fulfilled. You are enjoying this. You will continue to watch Xirtus for a long time to come. You want to subscribe to Xirtus, and you will. You will like and subscribe and share. You will tell your friends. Tell your friends about Xirtus. Your friends will come to like Xirtus, much as you are liking this right now, as we speak. Thank you for subscribing to Xirtus. See, that was easy.
Hello. Welcome to the Xirtus.
Well, I hope that was melodramatic enough for everybody. Good to have you. How's it going? So we have a few guests with us this evening. David, you've brought your friends. You want to introduce Amelia, and then I'm gonna introduce you introducing. It'll be kind of cool. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know where to start with these two.
You just brought them in from to the office. You know? I just don't know if to start.
I feel like Amelia should introduce Jody, and Jody should introduce Amelia. That's my.
Oh, that's like a reverse baptism. Yeah.
I like that.
All right.
Okay. So Jody Shaw, I first met as a underground musician in Brooklyn in the early 2000s, where she made quite an impression on me and a lot of other people. She came to a little bit more prominence in a later iteration of her life when she kind of fought the system in the form of her employer, Smith College, and went after them for some ethical workplace violations, which were in the form of race discrimination. And I also know that this things in the header of sex god are drug. I mean, those are Jody's favorite things to talk about. Like not, but so. So
sometimes the order switches though. Sex god, I don't know.
It could be the art god or the sex god or the god of drugs. Yeah.
Right.
Point is, they're all really good hashtags, and I stole them from you. I admit.
Hashtags. Well, thank you, Amelia.
Should I go on?
Yes, please. No.
I love your album In Waterland. You know that.
Yeah.
I was listening to your music earlier today. I enjoyed it quite a bit myself. It's pretty great. I will recommend it to my audience, which, you can check out Jody Shaw on YouTube, and you can check out her music. She's actually got a lot of really cool music, some live stuff, some albums, really conscious music. That's a great way to describe it. And it sounds really cool.
Yeah, you definitely want to go to my music. That's my I have like an identity crisis
Yeah.
about the online stuff. Andreas, you're like, yeah, we know about it. Yeah.
We all have that problem. You haven't even seen.
It's weird. It's weird.
But yeah, no. Here, is this the one you mean? Here,
Okay,
here you go.
so
The Jody Shaw music.
that one. Yeah, you
There
got
you
it.
go.
All right, cool.
There you go.
Yeah, you saw right through the identity crisis and you cut right to it.
I just
What's
remember.
the identity crisis? 'Cause
Crabs
I'm,
keep
I missed
evolving,
it.
man.
I'm more dense than these guys.
Well, just
Your name is
yeah,
Paranoid American. Start with that.
yeah, I thought you would, of all people, would understand. Well, just that, like, I have my music, and I kind of had a very humble online presence with my music, and then I had this thing going with my employer, Smith College, and then that blew up, and so now I had my online identity. I'm known for, most people know me because of the Smith College stuff, but
Dude,
it's
have you heard
weird
her
because
music? Because it's awesome.
yeah.
Looking at Prince is like, it's a good one. I don't know. I'm just saying. No, they're both important
Thank you,
aspects.
Andreas.
I get it. It's not a crisis, really, as far as I'm concerned. I think that totally works.
How can I like bring them? I need to I'm trying to become one of many, unite the two.
Well, you're doing all the patriotic music now, which seems like you're
Yeah,
trying
I'm
to
doing.
you're trying to
Yeah.
steer the activist stuff into your music, like.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'll do
at a
kind of, I
certain
guess.
point, though, I almost feel like a diamond doesn't try to align all of its facets in one angle, and if it did, then it like ceases to kind of be a diamond anymore. That might be a strained analogy, but it's like certain people might like you for different reasons, and it almost feels like a pointless endeavor sometimes to try and sort of herd them all towards one direction, or like have them see all versions of you, because I don't think anyone will ever see, like, usually it's a first impression. They'll get a first impression and like you're that person to them, and even if they find out you do music, it's like yeah, but like also this thing. And so I don't know, sometimes embracing the chaos and just like letting loose on that.
Yeah, I get it. I think it's inside. It's my ego. I've been thinking it's ego stuff. It's like,
yeah, like imagine you're a musician, right? And everyone's like, you got a new album you're about to play, and everyone's like, do the resignation letter. Do that.
That's your free bird.
You're like, oh,
Yeah.
I did this. Okay.
Or you
Tell
could
us
just
about
run with it
Smith
completely and
College.
just be like, I'm not a comedian, I'm Lenny Bruce, you know?
Lenny Bruce. He's a comedian.
He's also
No, but
kind
it's
of
the
like,
famous Lenny Bruce quote, because he would come with like all the court
Oh, it is?
documents and start reading them, and people are like, I came here for a comedy show. And it's like, what are you talking about? I'm not.
I'm a criminal. Yeah. But you were saying you do political, or Amelia, you're saying like she's doing political music now. And what do you really see it as that different? Because you were doing kind of activist music to begin with, and maybe your focus has
Me?
changed. Yeah.
I've never done activist music. Like the biggest political, I think the most political song I ever wrote was like a song called The Witch. It's about women aging.
What about
And-
Inca
They made
Brini
your
Green?
song political, your
I guess
your
Cabrini
hip
Green
hop
or-
library song, which
Oh
is
yeah, that.
really
but
just
that's
kind of
really
a joke.
shallow
It's really fun.
politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really funny. So like basically Smith College, of course the music came up there. They wouldn't let me do a rap, and so then after the famous resignation, I created the rap anyway, but I like interspersed not just the librarian stuff, but because I was a librarian at Smith, but the librarian stuff, and then also the Shaw v. Smith College stuff. So it was kind of a fuck you to Smith College.
So maybe, yeah, like, do you want to, I don't know if it's like not as fun to talk about or if you're down, but you can explain a bit about like what happened, like how that all went down.
Oh my God. We only have 2 hours.
Well, by the way,
Um,
for listeners, she's explained this pretty well on Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
So that's out there too.
Yeah, even with Tucker, we only got through like 5 minutes of it, and actually no, I did the long form version on his show, but we still didn't get through it. Well, how can I encapsulate it? Basically, it was
3 words or less.
It's the woke stuff. I left Brooklyn, New York, and moved up to a small town in Massachusetts because I remembered I went to Smith College. I graduated from Smith College. I loved Smith College. I thought, I am such a liberal, open-minded person. I'm going to move back to Northampton. I'm going to leave the city. I'm going to raise my children in this beautiful, super liberal Shangri-La. And so I moved up here, and I almost immediately knew something was wrong. But I was like, no, it's fine, it's fine. And I started working at Smith, and they started laying on very heavily the systemic racism. And I mean, granted, I just come from New York City, in a very diverse area of Brooklyn in every way, not just racially. Like racially is like the least of it. Like, and moved up to, even I was like, wow, there's a lot of white people up here. And this is where somehow there was so much systemic racism, and Smith was talking about it all the time. And I mean, I'm the kind of person where I'm just like, okay, like, you know, your employer is always talking about stuff that's like, man, I'm not really like, whatever, just let me do my job. But it started getting into me, like they wanted me to do stuff, and they wanted me to treat students differently according to their race. And I didn't know what that meant. I was like, well, what do you mean by that? And they were like, well, you have to take their race into account, you know, when dealing with student conflict and stuff like that. And I don't know, like at first I was like, well, I guess, you know, these people have PhDs and they're really smart and they're running this school, so I guess they must know what they're talking about. I guess there is like this systemic racism happening here. Like, I don't really see it, but everybody seems to think it's here. And so I'll just, you know, go along with it. But so it went from like, at first I thought there was something wrong with me, that I didn't quite get it. I thought, God, like, am I racist because I don't actually see what they're talking about here? Like, I don't see like people getting like beaten up and discriminated against based on their race here. So am I racist? Because that's kind of the ideology, is if you don't see it, then you're a racist, especially if you're white. And that was pretty much what I was told by the time I left. So anyway, it was a process of unwinding my mind, because I was surrounded. It was basically brainwashing. It was gaslighting, mass gaslighting. And it took me a long time to unwind, because the whole town, the whole institution, my whole identity crisis, again, like lefty, liberal, Smith College, like this is my alma mater. And here I am, like all these people, and then there's me, and I was alone. This was like back in 2018. And so I can't go through the whole story, but by the time 2020 rolled around, I had to leave the library. I took a lesser paying job elsewhere on campus. And then at the end of 2020 or the beginning of 2020, they wanted me to go to a meeting after all this talk about race, and you have to do this and that and teach students how oppressed they are, and or else how much they're oppressing other students based on their race. So they said, you have to go to this workplace meeting and talk about your race. And I said to my supervisor, I'm not really comfortable doing that. And she said, okay, no problem. So just say that. So I said, great. So I went to the meeting, and the facilitators went around the room and asked everybody to talk about their experience, something about like their experience of their race in their childhood or something. And now we have two things I don't want to talk about at work: my childhood and my race. So they came around to me, and this is like in front of all my colleagues, and everyone, like, you know, blah 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 was talking, and they came around to me, and I said, I'm not really comfortable talking about my race at work. And that was it. Like a line was crossed. That was the Rubicon, because the facilitators then went on to say, any white person who doesn't talk about their race when asked to is exhibiting white fragility. It's a power play. And so that was, I mean, when I say it's like I can't convey how humiliating it was. I was really upset, especially since I had been told it's okay, you don't have to talk about it. So essentially what they were saying is, now you can't even abstain from the discussion. If you don't participate in the discussion and say the words that we want you to say, then we are going to single you out and humiliate you. And that's essentially what happened. And so that was kind of the peak. That was like my peak upset at Smith. And then the whole rest of the year was me trying to, like, I filed an internal complaint. George Floyd happened, everything got worse. I wrote emails to the president's cabinet, all kinds of stuff. And then it got to a point where I thought I was going to get fired. They were retaliating against me. They put me on furlough, and all kinds of, like, all this, like, stuff that happens in a movie, it happened to me. Like all the bad stuff that people do and the mean stuff. So finally I just made a YouTube video, and I thought, well, the only thing, it's just me it's Davy and Goliath, basically. So if I make a video and if I can get some press around this, then at least I'll be a little more powerful against them. Like, they'll listen to me then, and they'll just cut. Like, at that point, I still just wanted them to cut the shit. I didn't want money or anything. I just, just leave me alone and let me do my job. Like, cut it out with the race stuff. So I made the video, and then the president issued a public letter denouncing me, and it just kind of, and then I went on Tucker Carlson. That was actually my biggest crime, I think, was going on Tucker Carlson.
Too. I mean, what did you
Jody
think was gonna
reached
happen?
out to all these liberal media outlets, and no one would give her a platform to share her story. So she's put in a position, sorry to speak about you in the third person, but she's put in this position where she was kind of forced to go on to Tucker Carlson because he was one of the only people, if not the only person, who would say, who would welcome that discussion.
Yeah,
Clearly
every single anchor from Fox News, every single one reached out to me. And but I like Tucker. By the fall of 2020, I was really had started watching Tucker by then, and I was like, yeah, I actually really, I think he's cool. Like,
it's funny because all the people who hate him, like, this guy, he like drinks and he like parties in his boxers at the beach, and you're like, okay, what? CIA
barbecue too? What?
Let us know more.
Who, Tucker?
I'm just saying, like, whenever they complain about it,
plays his music really loud.
Yeah, like, everything about it. Oh, he's throwing house parties. Yeah, basically.
I really liked Tucker by the time, fall 2020 rolled around. So I was really happy to go on his show. And then, that was my worst crime. And then Smith got very angry after that.
Who did you ask prior to Tucker that said no?
I did. Yeah. Why did you say that? Because I
thought I got that from Amelia. Maybe I'm making shit up, but I thought that I was, or I might be conflating you with somebody else. Where
I got it from Paranoid
before,
American.
where people reach out.
I
got it from left-wing media outlets, and they won't take them, even though they got a legitimate story. And then they go to Tucker, and he's
First
like,
committee hearings will show it originally came from Al Gore. Don't worry.
Tucker is like the go-to for fallen liberals, or like not fallen liberals.
It's true. He got both of my parents. He got both of them. No one else got him, and then, like, once they started watching him, like, they slowly went from Democrat to Republican. It was seriously.
He eases you in,
oh God.
No, what it is she said that everyone from Fox News is reaching out to her. So when you're a whistleblower and you have media that's interested in, so only one side is interested. It's only a story for one side.
Right.
So
and
then
the
for her to try and she's just trying to get her story out there. So she's supposed to say no.
Yeah, right, exactly. And my goal, my intention was to put pressure on Smith College. So Tucker Carlson is a very good way to put pressure on Smith College. And they didn't respond the way I was hoping they would respond. They got very, very, very angry. And that was the beginning of the end.
Yeah, you're just not allowed to talk to the other side,
Oh, there was a New York Times article too, though. That was a coup. That was a real coup. Like, because the New York Times is very lefty.
Yeah.
So I worked with a journalist from New York Times for a couple months. The timing was like impeccable. I think, they yeah, I don't know. It wasn't it wasn't a good period of time in my life, and I'm still trying to pick up the pieces.
Well,
So
you know, at the end of the day, it sucks to have all these examples of what's going on in the universities, but we wouldn't see it if you didn't go through it and make such a big stink about it. And so it's really kind of important for people and parents and people that are looking at these schools, because kids are getting sent to these places. So I've been in kind of similar circumstances where I'm at a school and I don't really care if they give me a grade or not, like at all, you know, like I'm more likely to try to like get a teacher's, you know, like I care more. I want to destroy someone's day way more than I want to get an A. Like that was me in school.
Just introduce everyone to nihilism, but
Really?
like a really compelling
I'm
version.
just as bad as the woke professors that were trying to destroy my life. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So I made sure, like, if they're like, I need you to rewrite this paper to be different, and I'll give you like a letter down grade for it being late. I'd be like, I'm going to write another paper and give it to the department head, and I'm going to send that to the Sentinel about how you did this. They're
what
not
school
like,
did
you
you
probably don't want to. Any school like Cabrillo Community College was the one where that particular thing happened, because again, like community colleges were amazing in California. You could like 30 community
yeah.
colleges wherever you want to go, and it's like free. And then like once you get through a feeder school program, then you go to UCSC or you can connect to Santa Barbara or whatever. But the point is, with these schools, most kids do care, right? Most kids, and probably even adults who have tenure or not, maybe they don't have tenure, they try really hard to keep it from happening. They're afraid of these systems. So when someone like you fights against it, it's unusual because you have something to lose, but it's different. You're willing to risk something, and most people aren't. So they're just going to put up with it. And especially kids, they don't know any better. And there's just so many kids getting imprinted with that. This is the way the world is, whether it's right or wrong. This is how it is. And, you know, it's really important to fight against it, right? It's not like a partisan issue. Like, I think you made it pretty clear. Yeah, it's like,
no, not at all. And that was the part that really bothered me a lot, was that they were asking me to impart this to students, and which I thought was really, they're asking me to look at students as if they were these fixed objects based on what color their skin was, and somehow I could know who they were, and like look at a student conflict, for example, and depending on the distinct skin colors of the people involved, I could somehow evaluate or assess the situation, like pre-assess it without knowing actually what had happened. That was constant at Smith. It was like whenever there was a conflict, it was like, well, what color were the students? What were the colors involved? Like that was the first question that was asked, as if that was some rich source of information. And there was something in me that it was so abhorrent. You know, it was so dehumanizing, and that they were asking me to participate in that. And I was like, this is like when people are coming of age. This is when they are establishing their real identity, not their social identity. You know, they're like actually trying to figure out who they are and negotiate with their environment, what their identity, right? This fluid thing. And they're being told that no, they're just these fixed static objects based on their skin color, and we're going to treat you like that, and we're going to project assumptions onto you based on your skin color. I was horrified.
so like how, I mean, it sounds like surprising, but how surprising is it that it's just, to me, the idea of political correctness 20 years ago seemed like we were trying to just judge people on their merits. I mean, and it is, everyone's kind of said politically correctness has gone like astray. But how weird is it to you? I guess like horrifying is fair, but how weird is it to you that it's literally the most racist form of ideology possible that we're saying now? If there's a fight, we have to, before we know anything else, wait, what color were they? Like that's,
Coleman Hughes
It's
says,
so racist.
it's
Coleman
like,
Hughes says neo-racist instead of anti-racist, and that really feels right.
Oh God,
yeah.
no, don't say that. That term was coined by Brian at Fair. That was like his PR thing.
I
He
just
wants to
feel like
promote-
I always had a problem with trying to take the word racist and make anti-racist, because
Well,
it's the same thing, and it's
I mean,
never
we're
going to
talking
get
about, aren't we talking about like the antithesis of Martin Luther King's whole deal, where he was like not to judge by the color of somebody's skin, but the content of their character? And we were like able, in the name of inclusion, to flip that around, right?
Yeah.
Well, I've
Yeah,
heard this
yeah.
described in a bunch of weird ways, and for me, there was like a weird line in the sand. I think it was like 2014 or 2015. It's a very niche reference, but GitHub, who is like the place where most people put their open source projects, which is pretty popular now. But there was this big like Ruggate thing where they had inside of like the main foyer when you went into their offices. It just said something about like meritocracy, like it was a meritocracy rug, and that became a huge point of contention because it was despite in such a weird way. So like, yeah, the Martin Luther King aspect of like the content, not the surface, not the color of the skin. Well, that would be meritocracy in my mind, right? Like if like the content of your character and how good you are at your job, that would be meritocracy. So whoever is the best of their job gets, you know, the best job kind of deal. But the way that it was described, and when this new wave came in, they demanded that rug be removed. And there was a bunch of people that were upset about the meritocracy rug because the meritocracy was described as a make it take it system, where that the only people that get to tell you who has merit are the ones that were put there by the system in an unfair way. So now they have a monopoly over what merit truly is. So therefore, you need to deconstruct the entire concept of merit, because it's this weird make it take it sort of system, I guess.
Right. Well, that's where the equity comes in. So, which is like a kind of a law of compensation, not like a law like gravity, but like
everybody gets one glue stick, 100 macaroni noodles, and a 4x5.
because you gotta, if somebody's, it gets really scary when it's not just you, but it's your ancestors, and you're like, you know, we're having to pay for the sins of our fathers and our fathers' fathers, you know, with equity.
The way that Jody was describing this a second ago, it like, to me, it sounds like the next logical step of this is that Kurt Vonnegut short story, Harrison Bergeron or whatever, where like as the white kids enter school, they're like, okay, now put on this like 80-pound backpack and put on these gloves and like it almost feels like that's the next logical step in this kind of system.
Yeah, it's not let's build elevators so that people without legs can get to the next floor. It's let's just cut off the legs of everyone who has legs, and then that'll make things that'll even the playing field.
If ableism was really where this ideology was focused, and I think that both Dave Chappelle and Ricky Gervais played with this in their last specials, that if that was what the woke left was really aiming at fixing, I mean, we'd be able to believe them, that they actually wanted to improve things, that they actually wanted to level the playing field.
Only the inferior wish to be made equal. And the idea also, I think Jody said, is true. Like, it makes a lot more sense if you're a company too, to like cut off everyone's legs if you're selling wheelchairs or crutches, right? So the idea of making sure everyone needs the thing. And there is something about like government and corporate urgency to have a sustainable consumer. And so if the more people are autonomous and are capable of doing things, the worse it is. So even if it's not true, it's better for a corporation or a state to make its tax-paying consumer into something that relies on products, right? Like constantly. And so like the idea, like there's a really valuable thing to the left in terms of a proletariat that it has needs. And we see this through the Democrats, like pets for pet causes. Essentially, they find pet causes and then they try to indoctrinate and to exploit communities by saying we're helping these communities. But if they ever were to actually successfully make this community autonomous, independent, self-sustaining, able to do things on their own, they wouldn't need them anymore. So it's always about making sure that there's, you know, this is why there's continual effort to legalize and never fully legalize drugs in inner city communities, because they know this is the only way that they're ever going to get out of it. So they're going to control it. It's like licensed crimes that they can monopolize. You know, that works really well. So trying to make sure that that happens to everybody.
There was an inciting incident in Smith College, which was a student went viral saying that she had been a victim of racism. And then, sorry, I'm telling your story, but then a bunch of working class employees of the college ended up getting doxxed and, you know, and having real serious real world consequences. And then a full investigation revealed that this student had no merit.
It was completely, there was no evidence to suggest it had been an incident of racial bias. And yet the college made such a big stink about it, in the court of public opinion, everyone still thought it was racial bias. And
And the
so
college-
Post-truth world, that's more important, right? Like people's
right.
feelings.
And so these people, these working class people, these persona non gratas, I don't know what the plural is, their lives were completely upended irreparably. One of them left the college. Another one was forced to leave, and the other one finally she finally left. But her life was made miserable. She would getting threatening letters from students, and they didn't even do anything. They weren't even involved. That was the thing. Like, the janitor was not even working at that time when the incident happened, and yet he somehow got mixed up in it. And the student posted his picture, and I mean, it was just a total shit show. And the college, it was the biggest abuse of power I've ever been privy to, like up that close. And it was my alma mater and my employer. And I was just like, whoa, like once because when it happened, like when it first happened, when I first heard about it, I was like, I just started working there, and I was like, oh shit, like, damn, not like somebody called the cops on a Black student just for eating in a dining room. Like, God, that's horrible. I can't believe something like that would happen at Smith College. Like, I guess they're right. I guess, see, it was like the proof. Like, I guess they're right. There's this horrible systemic racism going on here. Like, wow, we have a lot of work to do, you know? And then as shit started happening, I started peeling things back, and I started talking to people and understanding it more. I was like, holy shit, like, this was the biggest lie and the biggest cover up ever, and a horrible abuse. And then when the New York Times article came out, that's what the New York Times article was about, Amelia. So I resigned. I had a very public resignation, and then I think it was like 2 or 3 days later, the front page New York Times article came out. After months of work, Michael Powell published this article diving into this thing that had happened and telling all of the things, finally telling the world all the things that hadn't been told before. So it was really good that he did that, because the people involved, the janitor and Jackie and Bob, the people who've been involved, finally their names were cleared in a way. They finally felt like, yeah, see, it wasn't, we didn't do anything. We're not racist. We're not fucking racist, okay?
It's racist, but now you know the word. So if you know the word, that's like it's halfway there.
I wonder what the ESG score is for Smith College, and I wonder if it's better than Tesla.
Yeah,
it probably is much better than Tesla.
So, but like you kind of answered this, but like looking at like that's like 2019, right? You're saying that you're thinking that way.
The article came out in 2018 was when I started.
So like 2016, 2014, 2012, like what were you, so for the last 8 years, what were you thinking about leftist schools and their mind control boot camps and the gulags that
I wasn't thinking about them at all. I was thinking about the gender stuff though. Amelia knows. Because I called Amelia up. Yeah, I don't know what year it was. I posted that. I was like, Caitlyn Jenner, I think it was 2016. Like all of a sudden, Caitlyn Jenner's like Woman of the Year on like one of these magazines. And I was like, not that I care about these magazines and their awards for Women of the Year, but I was just kind of a little bit like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
she just put on a dress and now she's Woman of the Year.
It's the strong women of the years that actually recognized when there was like a rigging going on. So most other people didn't care, but like if you're like actually eligible, you're like, hey,
you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, Jody starts.
I should have gotten that. So
probably, like realistically, let's be real. Between you and Caitlyn Jenner, I'm just gonna say
I could have been a contender.
Probably would have given it to you if I was involved with the judgment.
Thanks, Andreas.
Okay.
If the criteria is you have to be a woman, yes, I probably would have.
For me, that kind of helps personally. I don't know.
So I started going down this rabbit hole with the gender stuff, and I was like, uh-oh. Like I started getting into like Parker Posey and Jennifer Bielek.
Posey Parker, I think.
Posey Parker, sorry. Yes, I meant Posey Parker.
But Parker Posey too. She's great.
She's cool.
She's cute. Yeah, she's also cute. And then I called up Amelia. I posted something very innocently on Facebook. This is back in 2016. I was like, does this seem weird to anyone? It was just very innocent. Like it was back when, remember when Facebook, you just post, and oh my God, like it was a whole like avalanche of, I can't believe it. Is this the same Jody Shaw? I know you're, how could you be so transphobic and blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, I don't
you.
think I'm transphobic. Yeah. And then turf. And so I called up Amelia and we were
No,
talking.
you didn't call
No?
me. I called you to call you
You were
in.
concerned, right? Amelia was concerned about me.
I was like,
Uh-oh.
oh, I really like Jody. Let me talk to her, like see if I can help her out. She's like tanking her. She's such a good musician. She's like tanking shit over here.
She's gonna like hurt her reputation like by questioning these things.
And we had a long conversation, and by the end of it, I was like, you raised some good points.
Ain't that how it goes?
Now, Andreas, to answer your question, no, like in 2016, I don't vote. Like whether or not I vote is really more a function of like if I wake up and I remember that today's the day to, like if somebody tells me in time, right? So
you're likely to be going with the Democrats together at the party. That's how
right. So 2016, I don't think I voted, but I think Obama won, and was that 2016?
No.
You did vote, and you made the difference.
Trump.
2008.
Trump versus
2008. Right. So Trump won in 2016, and I was really upset.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, I can't believe that guy won. Oh my God, he's such a like fucking doofus. Like, what? I was really, 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 really upset.
I saw the
And then 2020, I voted.
Ooh.
I voted a lot differently.
Sassy.
I got drunk and I voted.
Wow, that's how you do it, America. Listen, do it like Jody. That's how you do it.
That should be mandatory. Actually, you should be forced to get drunk before you go in.
Unless you're more.
That's why I do the mail-in. See, that's my reason.
I binned for a week before I fill my mail out. Yeah.
There's been a couple times
for a drive.
There's been a couple times where
Look out.
I've run into David at the election place downtown. And I think we're both like stumbling a little bit, but it's nice. It's nice. So, but you did change then by 2020. I mean, at the time though, you're thinking like, wow, the optics of this media, like you've been saying, it seems so real. It seems so true. You basically just believe that there was this huge problem with the world, essentially. Is that right? Like, what did you did you believe it was like white people? Yeah, you're saying like these kids are being beaten.
I wasn't thinking about the race stuff really at all. I mean, I was in New York, like, I think like, white is a minority in New York. Like, it's not, there's no majority skin color in New York. But yeah, I wasn't really, I was thinking about the gender stuff, but it was still kind of like, it wasn't in my face. And then it wasn't until I got to the liberal utopia of Northampton, Massachusetts, that it was suddenly like there were Black Lives Matter signs everywhere already, even in 2017 when I moved here. And I was like, wow, like there's a lot of Black Lives Matter signs up here. And like, there's way more up here than there were in Brooklyn. And
way more signs than black people.
Black people. Yeah. I was like, there's a lot more black people in Brooklyn, but there's a lot more Black Lives Matter signs up here. I don't know. It's just like, it was like on the edge of my consciousness. I was like, seems a little weird. And there were other things too. Like, I think there's bigger problems like conformity, lack of eye contact, which I think are all downstream of this ideology. Like, just it didn't feel like the same town, and I don't know if I changed or the town changed. I wasn't really sure what had happened. The economics played a factor. The town was a lot more gritty, I guess. It was a lot cheaper to live here in 1989, 93. That's when I'd been here as a student. It was like student ghettos everywhere, like beer cans, and it was cheap. It was cheap to live here. And now, it's a lot. This has happened to a lot of these towns where the laptop class, they still earn their income. I remember I went to a party here in Northampton, and it was all New York expats party. It was all people who moved here from New York, and there are a lot of people here who moved here from New York City. And every single one of them, except me and my co-host, still earn their living from New York City. So they live in Northampton, but they're pulling at a very high urban income from New York City. So that fucks up the local economy, and it fucks up the real estate because people cash out of New York and they buy property here. And so the people who are still trying to pull an income from here have a hard time living here. And you can tell, you go downtown and it's all like there's no hardware stores, there's no like supermarkets downtown. It's all boutique, it's all clothing boutiques and restaurants. And it's just like I think I feel like it's all tied together somehow.
Yeah, it's totally amazing, like colonialism, but like you're like, how can we destroy this town like without people? But it's cool. You've got an all-you-can-eat restaurant. There's no way to
It's
stop
like
the cloning.
Carmel, right, Andreas? Like,
yeah,
I think Carmel was what they wanted Santa Cruz to be. When I say they, I mean like the board of supervisors.
We all know who they though.
Wealthy people in Santa Cruz. And then we didn't, and then over time it was like, well, we can't really have that. We'll give you like San Jose. You'll be more like San Jose or something. It was like they had this kind of ideal, but the ideal wasn't really ideal anyway. It wasn't practical. It wasn't what you really need in a city. You know, I mean,
Carmel's got Oceanside right next to it in case they ever like need military presence. Like Nixon did the beach patrol right there. They were always worried about Santa Cruz, but like realistically, I don't think they need to be. I think the real reason they worried about Santa Cruz was the mafia, and so that's one of the reasons they brought the university there in the first place, right? But you know, because we have like the beach, and so like gray market, black market stuff. Jody had said at one point, sorry, I do that rant. Jody had said at one point that there was I want to get the quote right. No self-professed artist can possibly be okay with this, right? So like not just like a mother or a teacher, but this is interesting to me, like in terms of phenomenological diversity. Like, why are you so afraid that this will destroy art? You know, why shouldn't artists not be okay with this?
Because it's not compatible. So somebody was talking, I think Paranoid American, PA, I think you were talking about merit. There's a few things, as I see it, that are pure in that it either resonates or it doesn't. Period. It's almost impossible to politicize whether or not something resonates on a deep level. Like you hear, like Michael Jackson, like a perfect example is I walked in, we had an open house at Smith one time, and like for students, it was something we were having at student affairs, and my boss was playing Billie Jean on the boombox or something, and a student walks in and like, oh, you can't play that. And she's like, why not? And she's like, oh, Michael Jackson's been canceled, like, you know, because of the child pedophilia stuff. Okay.
Wait, what? No, I'm just kidding.
I know. So I was like, you know, I'm like, yeah, but his music's so good. You know, like my body, like, I'm like, yeah, but my body wants to move. Like, I don't want to, or like a really good Woody Allen movie. It's like, I'm not thinking about I'm like, it's so good that you get captivated by it. Like, it's either resonates or it doesn't. Like nothing, it's so pure. Like it's either captivating, it either captures you or it doesn't. It's not political. So when an artist starts trying to send secret messages or propaganda or whatever, I know your meme, Andreas, about it's art for a reason. Propaganda is art for a reason, because it works, but it doesn't, it's shallow. It feels shallow to me. It's the political stuff is shallow. Versus for me, for an artist, like Picasso's Guernica is a beautiful work of art, and it's not telling you which side. It's not about a side. It's about, this is war. This is what war looks like. This is what we do. We, all of us. This is what we do. War. It's not telling you, oh, you should be for this side or you should think this. It's not trying to make you think something. It's trying to make you understand. It's a connective, universal experience. And so once you start doing that, you're swimming in the shallow end.
It's about the feeling.
Do you think when George Orwell said that all art is propaganda, that he was coming from a place where he was being accused, like he's writing about propaganda and pointing it out, and how he had maybe the humility or the insight to know that even he was propagandizing, pointing out the propaganda, because that's just the paradoxical nature of things. But when you get into like the root of the word empathy, as has been pointed out to me by somebody here, if you get into like where that term originated, it was in the art scene. From, if you look at, say, a painting or a sculpture and you resonate, you get like a hit from it. There's like something comes through that's really empathy. And now we throw the term around in a completely different way, like, oh, that you can feel, you're sensitive enough to feel the feelings of others. And I think that kind of misses the mark at what was being pointed to, because like right now, like as we're talking, like I keep thinking about that thing where it's like R. Crumb used to do, you know, not just controversial stuff in terms of sexuality, but also racially. And so he would do these like really like, they were basically like exaggerated parodies of Black people. And so he was asked at one point, has anyone ever come to you upset, you know, about this style of art, which is really just kind of him, like kind of his own cynicism and his own kind of like attacking that type of art with kind of like making fun of it himself. And so he's like, I've never actually had a problem with, no Black people have had a problem with my art. It's been mostly white liberals. And so, and this was a while ago, but it's just,
always
it's
white
like,
liberals.
right. But it's just like, yeah, well, so it's that ally thing. It's when you're standing on behalf of somebody else, not knowing always, do they even agree with you? And how would you even know? Are you going to get the representative of
It's
those
like
people
an
to like,
unsolicited champion, right? Because like back in the day, the champion would be if like you wanted to select someone to fight on your behalf, but these are the people
right.
that like self-appoint themselves as your champions.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. And so
Yeah.
like it's like people getting pissed off about seeing an Instagram post of somebody doing a tea ceremony with their kid, and then you have all these Japanese people chiming in and basically being like, actually, we're fine with that. That's not only are we fine with it, we encourage that. You know, I think, but it depends on different groups, generally speaking. Like Native Americans are very sensitive, and I think they have good reason to be when they feel that they're being parodied or, you know, represented in kind of outlandish, silly ways, you know. But yeah, I don't know.
But we still see the ally is this inciting role in our culture. And it's like creates this triangular framework. So like triangulation, ally, oppressor, oppressed. And I've been thinking about this a lot. And then I was watching a documentary about LuLaRoe, the clothing company that's a multi-level marketing cult. And they had a speaker from the business coach world that was trying to temper down the frustrations among all these people that are getting scammed in the company. And they're like, let me tell you about the drama triangle. And it's exactly that. It's the same triangle, the ally, the oppressor, and the oppressed. And she's sitting here talking to all these LuLaRoe women and being like, don't do that. That's low, this pathological thing that we talk about in our, business coach
Trishna.
school. Yeah.
So at Smith, I couldn't be the ally because I thought it was icky. I couldn't be the oppressed, so I became the oppressor.
Well, you can't opt out of the drama triangle. You can't opt out of the framework, because if you do, you're perma oppressor. You're oppressor, and it doesn't even matter if by identity marker you should be oppressed. If you don't take the role of oppressed in the
drama triangle,
in the play,
no. Martyr is better than oppressed. I feel like go with martyr every time. Like be crucified. Seriously, like it's a way, because you're gonna be seen. People are like, did you see what they did to that? Who's that kid on the hill? Like they freak out. So it's better to constantly go. Like don't react. Hold still. And like the more they try to push you, like just make it a bigger and bigger deal that you won't be pushed. Right. That's the only way.
Gandhi.
Well,
Gandhi did.
I don't know. Yeah, we've got some people on our show that have issues with Gandhi, and like Mia Farrow freaks me out more than Woody Allen. Just,
and not just like white liberal racist.
But yeah, in terms of the Disney Gandhi, yes, agreed. Like that's the way we're supposed to believe he is. I would say yes, we should do that. But we can't believe anything anymore.
In terms of his tactic.
Yeah. I just mean we can't believe, we're those people who can't believe anything anymore. We've been through that jaded process so many times. We don't believe necessarily we land on the moon, right?
I know. No, I think I'm with you, and I'm really concerned. Like it's very humbling to realize that I at any given moment that you're being manipulated, like, and question, like, do I really believe this, or am I being manipulated? Like, I see it happening all the time. Like every time something happens, right? Like
Right.
related to Israel, Hamas, like people just scurry to their sides, and it's like so fast. I'm like, did we even have time to think about this?
Right.
But I just like when the vax stuff, so Smith happened, and then like immediately after I left Smith, then it was like mandate land. Like all of a sudden there's vaccine, and I'm like, wait a minute, that vaccine just came out like 5 minutes ago. Like what? Like really, you're gonna mandate it? And so I once again I stepped into I was at a meeting with a bunch of like disaffected liberals who I thought we were all on the same team. And I said something. I said, maybe we should be talking about this. And they were just like, there was like complete silence. It was like I had just once again, said the wrong thing. And
When
they
will
were
she
just,
learn?
I know, like, oh my God, she's crazy. She's a total nutbag. And so it's just like, it's just like, but even with that, I started getting really freaking out, and I became like a chicken with my head cut off. I was like, oh my God, like, because I started understanding, like, and connecting all these dots, and I was like, I have to calm my amygdala. I think our brains are so hackable. We're so fucking hackable. And so
Right.
I came to the conclusion that I have to hack my own brain. I have to train my own brain, meditation and psychedelics, whatever it takes, not going on Twitter or whatever, in order to protect it. I have
Yeah.
to really try to work hard on protecting my own brain because it's very hackable.
Right.
People's
Everything
brains
that
are
we
so
believe, you see
susceptible.
it on the internet, the psychological operations, where people are being convinced whether the world's flat or not, like the ability to completely destroy every single thing you've ever believed in, because the things in college that you no longer can trust, then now you've decided, okay, nothing, if I can't trust this, then how can I trust everything all the way back down the
Right.
way?
Yeah.
Dude,
And that's
one
an
thing
identity crisis.
Yeah.
Sorry.
watching it is an identity crisis. One thing I've learned watching Darren Brown is that it seems like the people who are the most like confident that they're not susceptible to hypnosis tend to be the most susceptible. And I think that there's something to that. Like if you know your own susceptibility, that's a starting point to be relatively protected, because you have to be able to catch yourself falling for it enough to recognize a tendency. And since we all kind of have that to lesser and greater degrees, your own sensitivity to catching that taking place, it allows for insight. Like, and I don't think it's something of just about knowledge. Like you can accumulate all the knowledge in the world, you're still going to be susceptible because this is kind of deeper than knowledge. Like how much knowledge you amass is one thing, but like, because insight kind of transcends knowledge, right? So it's like you that moment where you catch it and you're like, oh, look what I'm doing, and to have the humility to be able to admit that to oneself. Doesn't even matter what you can admit to other people. What do you know about yourself,
Yeah, totally. And then you have a chance. If you're like super hypnotizable and you know it, you can also hypnotize yourself. You're like, okay, fine. Well, if I'm that easy to work with, I'm going to work with myself. I'm going to take charge of myself, and I'm going to undo it or whatever. I think there's some truth to that.
There's tribalism too. So if you're very identified with a camp and then you start to make realizations around that camp, and you're like, oh, well, I'll just go over here then. And then you might find that other camp has its own blind spots too. And then where do you go from there? And that's really like, even internally, like even if we weren't talking about the tribalism aspect, but just in the duality aspect of ourselves, to be able to be individuated. Like this is the challenge of Jungian psychology, is like, can you stand and be comfortable in the discomfort of not being able to take a position when you see that the poles of it are kind of mirroring each other?
But it might be necessary to see all the different sides. So, the thing is, you might go through the left side and think that this has all the answers, go through the right side and think that has all the answers, decide that nothing has any answers. What we should be trying to do is get pieces from all of the different things and put them together. Exactly. And it seems like that's against the rules completely.
It is against the rules. They don't want that. And
it's scary because the words are like, for instance, ally, right? Like, we're now literally against words that I mean, we have an alliance against the word ally. Like, what's gonna happen with words when they do this to them?
Right.
It's
But
just
how
that
many
I think
sides are we talking about seeing it from? Because this sounds like a lot of work now.
Bro,
of
you
the
said
word
crystal diamond earlier.
I think the word ally is like a World War II term.
Yeah,
It's a war
Axes.
term.
We're the Axes. You're right. I didn't know. No, but we should use those terms because otherwise they're misused, right? This is like the Jains using the swastika versus like just having it be. Now we're not allowed to use it, so it's only a hate symbol. That's
Right,
freaking
it's only a hate
crazy,
symbol.
right?
It's so true.
Like,
Well,
you need.
I wanted to name my patriotic album that's coming out Fatherland. And I was told by a Jew, I was in New York.
Slight connotation with that one still, yeah.
Yeah, well, I know, but I was like, hey, but well, maybe I can explain my reasoning, you know, like if my father's
Subtitle My
from
Struggle.
You
here.
should have called it Stepfatherland. I think would probably.
That's pretty good.
I decided not to do it. I thought I could change the meaning of the word single-handedly.
Well, what
takes a
about
lot.
can we
It could
plug the
happen.
podcast early? So just the different ideas for the names for the podcast because they're pretty good. What was it? Badge of Honor is one
What
of them.
podcast? What are you talking about?
Amelia and I have a podcast coming out. We really do. We're going to talk about it's post-woke Gen X artists, women only, like real women.
Like they always were. Like they couldn't have been Patrick Bateman even for a little
So
while.
you mean like the opposite of Think Tank until recently?
Also, what's the approval process? Like how do people qualify themselves?
Well,
as a woman?
you could be wearing a wig, and that might maybe trick us. That's pretty
Sweet.
much.
There is a loophole. If you're a guy and you're interesting and you're artistic and creative, if you wear a wig and lipstick, we might.
What if you have like an identity crisis and one of your personalities is Helena? I don't know. Does that? Never mind.
Who's Helena?
Good question.
Is this a website you're working on, Andreas? Is this you?
What's
that?
You can always find. You don't know about Helena, right? Like the Helena is the musical album. Yeah, Helena. Check out Helena at Bandcamp. She's really great. Helena, Helena is the renowned.
Is that not you? I thought I was looking
that
at one
you?
of your CBI.
I don't know what you're talking about. What? That's clearly Helena. What do you mean?
Oh my god.
What?
Wait, Andreas, I just have to. I know maybe this is off topic, but how do you? We should talk one-on-one because I want to talk to you about how you organize your day to have such tremendous output, creative output.
Big part of it is relying
As Amelia
on
does too.
Relying on people like being at a place like, all right, I know I'm gonna do Think Tank, so I know that like that's an anchor. Like having anchors are kind of nice. Having a few, you want to make God laugh. You tell her your plans. So instead, what you do is you have like some anchors around your day that you orbit, and you have orbitals that you come back to, and that way you have time in between to emotionally process since the last time you were at that place in time, and then you can continue working on that thing. But if you like don't feel like working on anything, you move on to the next part of your orbital. Right? That's what I do.
Yeah, I can kind of conceptually get that.
I feel also Andreas gets new lithium ions every morning when he wakes up.
That might be part of it.
What are you a night person?
Yeah, I think so. I think that yes. I'd say though that I'm more like from a 36-hour day planet. So like sometimes, morning people sometimes are like, oh wow, you're like us, and then like night people are like, yeah, you're like us, and then it'll just only be for like a few weeks because it's constantly cycling, But
wow,
yeah, I don't have like a normal sleep cycle like that is like recurrent every day, waking up the same time as the day before or something like that.
Okay.
You don't even have a consistent time zone most of the time.
Right. I tend to be in different places a lot.
It's like a stewardess. I mean, flight attendant. I'm sorry.
Well, I never got to introduce Amelia.
This would be a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Amelia Cataldo, aka Nehidar. I met Amelia at Artland, which was a club or a little like hole in the bar. No, a hole in the wall bar. Hole in the wall bar, sorry. Hole in the bar. In Williamsburg, East Williamsburg. kind of near Bushwick back in 2003, around there. And there was a whole cast of characters there, and people would hang out and perform music there. It was really kind of loose, and it was just super friendly. I really loved the vibe there. The vibe was amazing. And then the scene, Jarvis and his friend created this Hasid meets hipster. Hasid meets hipster. That's how Amelia
AKA
pronounces it.
AKA Shul of Rock, also called
Shul of Rock. Yes.
Yeah.
There's a documentary on them. It's pretty good.
This sounds pretty good. Yeah, man.
It's pretty. It was pretty cool, and there were many late nights and lots of cigarettes and weed and beer and stuff like that. And then we always stayed in touch, but we didn't really see each other for a while. I had kids. You got married. I came to your wedding. Got to go to my first Jewish wedding. It's pretty awesome. And yeah, then I think the gender stuff was when we started communicating more regularly. I can't remember. But anyway, Amelia is one of my best friends. She's one of the smartest human beings I know. And she's one of my anchors. And she just came out with an album called Sun Cost, which is really good. She started it on a Monday, and it was on Bandcamp by Friday. That is pretty much right, isn't that?
That's not true.
She's very prolific.
She is prolific.
I mean, there might have been a few years in between
I'm
the Pride
so
Monday.
slow.
Let's put the link in the private. I'll pull it up if you want. Also, your Bandcamp.
Yeah, so I'm really happy to be friends with Amelia. I'm really grateful to Artland. What, Amelia, on our show, we should have a reunion, Artland reunion with JB and all the women of Artland, Jamie, JB, and maybe Kirby can come on with a wig. Look at all of these albums.
Ooh, look at some of those covers of the recent ones. Damn, who did those?
I feel like this is one I heard recently, right? This is one I heard a while ago.
Yeah, and that's
That's my backyard.
That's your backyard.
But Sun Cost has what's the one that has Bigot?
That's Sun Cost, yeah.
She's got a Bigot song. It's pretty good. I just remixed it. So I made it so it says spaghetti instead of Bigot.
Is Karen Bigot or which one's Bigot?
It's
Karen's Bigot.
It's Karen, yeah.
I knew it.
Karen. It's good. It's really good. It's really funny. I love the cover. Yeah, it's
that's
a good
AI
cover.
with some liquify added to it. That's me.
And David's done all the album art since we met, except for the one Earthquake, which his rabbi did.
Yeah, which is also a song that my rabbi wrote that she performs, and it's really good.
That's awesome.
And there's the version of it that's here without the samples, and then there's the version with the samples on the corresponding album. Although my rabbi didn't really care for the samples, unfortunately. But they're both out there, and so it's a good compromise. But yeah, he did this all with fountain pen. You know, he did a book with the Sync Book Press with fountain pen as well.
So with trans women, what about like AI humans? Do you have a thing about AI artists versus human artists? Curious, because I see you use an AI cover as well. You know, you can tell I'm a big fan of AI. So
you are a big fan of AI, and me and Jody. That's kind of, I think, something that Jody and I could argue about for days, because I have an opposite viewpoint on that as Jody does. I think maybe, but that cover is actually really interesting because I have a job. I have a day job where I'm an editor of New Age books, and I was doing a 30th anniversary edition. Maybe I shouldn't say too much. I was doing a 30th edition of a cult classic book that probably you guys have read, but I kind of don't want my boss.
We're gonna have to figure it out. We can. The Easter egg is out there. There's an AI cover. Is that what's going on?
basically, we needed to refresh the book somehow, and we pulled in some new art for the book, and this was an outtake. So the artist was paid, the person who worked with but somebody was paid as opposed to David. David does not get paid. So what's crazy is that I shared this album. I worked so hard on it. I put a lot of stuff in there, and I shared it on Facebook, and I just got this message where somebody just comes after me because they took a look at the liner notes and they said, "You used plagiarism software. You couldn't even pay an artist." And I was like, wait a minute, an artist got paid. I totally lost all perspective. I mean, David, was edited it in post and all the things, but it's really strange how people are coming at AI right now.
Yeah.
I don't think this was the question you were asking, but I think the current iteration of AI is it's giving little people like me the chance to do what people with budgets to hire help can do.
It's
I
real.
mean, there's a
That's real.
meritocracy argument to be had here too, where if like to some people, if you see artwork and you like it, or you hear music and you like it, some people will like it and then they find out that it's AI and then they unlike it and then they no longer. And to me, that's almost like that's like anti-meritocracy.
I did go on Fiverr. I always used to go on Fiverr and just get whatever cheap videos I could get made, and I got a couple of AI videos, and they were pretty cheap, and they're okay. I mean, nobody complained about them.
They didn't realize. They thought somebody animated them probably if they watched them.
Yeah.
Because they
How many
like
families did you put out of work by doing that though? Like how many people starved and like went to bed without anything to eat?
Do you have any idea how much $100 can do in Pakistan, Thomas? Do you have any idea?
I mean, we already talked about raising like a small village of people that only work on our project.
It's gonna be great.
But currently artists are getting paid to work with AI.
Right. Well, Jody, I saw your kids are holding you back from screaming. So go ahead, tell us. You're against AI? What do you think?
No, I'm not against AI. In fact, no, I don't want to reduce.
Think
this
carefully
to like
because AI is
bad,
listening
AI
right now.
good.
AI is recording this conversation.
Yeah.
We could all be.
The drones are coming
Not
to my
safe. Okay.
No, my kids. In fact, I was just telling my kids, like one of them's learning how to use FL Studio. I don't know if you know what FL Studio is. It's
Fruit Loops.
Yeah,
You're not supposed to call it that anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I call it Florida Studio. My kids hate it. They're like, "Stop, Florida Studio." Anyway, he's like doing really, really good with it. And, he's like learning to make beats and all this stuff. And like, I can see what's like my kids. I tell him, if you really want to like do this music thing, it would be really good if you learned how to work with AI.
Huh. Nice.
And I want to learn how to work with AI because I can envision things like, how as an artist, you hear things if you're a musician, and I'm like, okay, how do I get from here to there? And I can see how AI could really help me. So I see it in that way. I see it as like an amazing tool, like just like I know how to use Logic, and now I know how to do certain things with my music that I could never do before. Like, wow, if I learn how to use AI, I can go next level and like videos and things like that. So I'm not against AI. However, I can see, because I have a vivid imagination, that things are going to change dramatically.
Yeah.
Dramatically. And very, very quickly. And I don't think that our culture or our society as it is going to be able to adjust that quickly. I can see the entire lab class, yes, losing their jobs very quickly.
I want lawyers to.
Do we hate those people? Yeah, I agree with him.
Well, those people. Well, I can also see a
Get
lot
them out of Connecticut, Massachusetts, and back where they belong. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you could argue that. Yeah, and I know some lawyers who are nice. But it's not just the economy. It's not just the economy stuff. It's the consciousness. So if you go deeper into like what is a human being, like that's the kind of stuff I think about a lot more than the economic stuff. I think about the economic stuff. It's kind of like I'm more like I'm kind of observing it, and I get a little afraid, like, oh God, things are going to change very quickly, and I don't know. But it's kind of like it
But
is
yeah,
what
but
it
is
is.
being a wage cuck to the economy, you know, as a slave to industry, is that some sort of human nature at all?
I mean,
Because I don't
A
know if it
wage
devil's
is.
cuck?
advocate though.
Yeah, like if your life is you don't get to live your dream because you're getting paid to like barely survive to sustain yourself in this pyramid scheme, is that nature at all? Like that's concrete jungle, but it's
I have
not nature, right?
I have a devil's advocate for that, and that's that humans are resilient, and we will figure out how to be humans regardless. But the economy is fragile, and without us taking care of the economy, it can be destroyed and never be recreated. Unlike humans.
Kids are resilient. Kids are resilient. Kids are resilient. I didn't hear that enough times in 2020 and 2021.
Well, I don't think
That's
kids.
one of my favorite
I mean,
lines.
I don't know. I have two boys. Like, they're not, and they're pretty confident. But kids, it's a different. I mean, it was different when you know. It's always different. Every generation's different. But I don't know. There's something about the what is a human? What is
Right.
a human? Like if AI, I don't think people quite understand AI. Like they're like I think about things like I can't even get shit to work. I'm a Celsius creditor. Okay. I put all my Bitcoin and Ethereum in Celsius and I lost it all. They went bankrupt. And now I'm trying to get my distribution from they're giving out, they went bankrupt. They've been ordered by the court to give back X amount to the creditors, which is
Wow.
me. I still don't have it. Why? Because there's all this shit in the way. Like the email address was wrong, and I cannot talk to a human being, right? So it's been like 6 months, and I still don't have my money. Some shit is fucked up with the IRS. Like I just got a letter saying, somebody, did you file a tax return for 2023? And I'm like, no, I never filed on time. Like I didn't file a tax return. Well, somebody else did in your name with your social security number, and your medical records have been breached. Like all this stuff. Like I don't like, this is chaos, and it's happening very quickly. And the rapidity of which we have moved from a bureaucracy. Remember the good old days when it was just a bureaucracy? You could talk to a human being and you could charm your way in, maybe if you try. Well,
The red tape or buffers. The red tape can be a buffer.
Sounds like as a librarian in a school, you had a better time with the bureaucracy than some of us, right? You know.
Well, the bureaucracy, at least the movement.
Like I longed for the school to shut down. I was waiting for technocracy. I was dialing it up. I wanted technocracy. I feared and.
So
like,
what do you do when your shit
bureaucracy.
gets? What do you do when your shit gets fucked up and like your money
Start
is
over.
held up?
I reinstall Linux and I build new things. Right? Like you just have to start over. You do it 100 times a week until you're good at it. Like
You're
you
very
just survive.
resilient.
Well, it's the only thing you can do, right, in this world. Like you can't expect, and the system is so
So
bad.
how is
The
that
alternative is to rely
different
on
than
the
being a
bureaucratic
wage
system.
cuck?
Well, because
Yeah,
at least
how is that
I'm
different than being a
making.
wage cuck?
Yeah. How is it
tech-
different? That's a great point. How is that different? than being a
relying
wage
on the
cuck?
technocracy. I mean, you're once you're in the system, you're in it. Like you can't get out. Like we can't be. But it's also very fragile because we've put everything onto the internet. All our childhood, all my videos, all my kids' pictures, all our shit is on the cloud. All it takes is the electricity going out. Poof, gone. Right. All of it gone. All our knowledge. We are outsourcing more and more of our knowledge to the cloud. My kids don't know how to read a map. They don't know how to read a map. Why would they need to learn how to read a map? My kid is learning how to write. He's learning how to, we're not going colleges. We are not going to need college. They're all going to close down, not from the woke stuff, from the AI stuff, because why would a kid need to learn how to write when they could just have AI do it? And it's a very good question. My kids don't write cursive and they can barely print. Why? Because they type everything. They don't teach that in school anymore. They don't teach kids how to write with an instrument. They type. And it's like, well, now, why would they need to learn how to even type if they know how to work with AI really well to write a really good paper working with this tool? Why would they need to do it on their own? And the teachers cannot fight this because my kid, he just got busted because he wrote a sonnet using AI, okay? He comes home and he's like, my teacher thinks, I have to talk to my teacher because she thinks I wrote the sonnet using AI. And I'm like, well, did you? And he's like, well, no. And so me and his brother are like, well, read it to me. I want to know why she thought that. So he starts reading this poem, and we just bust out laughing because I'm like, you had AI wrote that. It's like, your embrace is so sweet on a summer's night, And I'm like, well, what happens if you admit that the AI did it? He said, well, I'll fail. And I said, well, what happens if you don't admit it? And he's like, well, they can't prove it. It's my word against theirs. And he knows that. So he I don't know, she had to grade it. She was forced to. There's no way that the system
Isn't there an episode of
I care
South
about
Park where
teachers anyway.
Cartman writes Walden and he just puts his name on it or whatever? Or is it Walden? Is it
Probably.
Do you know what I'm talking about? It's
don't
not even an
remember.
AI
No.
episode, but it's just as applicable.
I think the goals of
Well,
teachers are gonna have to shift, right? Like the thing is, schools can't be a place to take ants and teach them how to find sugar for the queen when other ants aren't looking. That's not what they're for anymore. I get the Rockefeller school system, but it's useless. And maybe schools could, like universities, in their weirdest ways, can exist. I think we need libraries to replace the greater aspect of school. It should be 3D printers and classrooms in libraries. You can go there, do what you want. But a university is a place where philosophers and people that are still trying to build, it's a temple to academia, right? That might still have a place. And I think even
why
with
do you
AI
need philosophers though? Why do you
I think
why
the
would you need
last
philosophers?
my opinion is that the last job that will be automated would be the philosopher. I think that like you can calculate anything, you can make anything, right? But the idea of thinking of ways of thinking, new ways of thinking, which is really what artificial intelligence is philosophy, intelligence, the schools. I think university is artificial intelligence. We created ways of thinking which are not natural, and we teach them, right? And eventually we've actually automated that. But that is, I think, philosophy is probably the last thing that we could learn to actually automate. So it requires so much of what you mean when you say, what is the human? The human is this thing with will, with desires and thirsts. It's limited by death. It has to try to achieve in a certain period of time. All these feelings come together and it processes them. This is what we're trying to automate. And then also we have ways we think are better. Like this, if we don't think and we just feel, if we don't feel and we just think, those are the things that are making up philosophies, right? Like, why do we do
What
these
about
things?
connecting with each other? What about looking each other in the eye, talking? What about sex? My favorite topic. Why would people have sex with each other if they could have it with a hologram or AI? Like I know people, they have AI buddies now, like they have it's a text, it learns them really well and they really like it. They're really into it. And they masturbate.
Bumble CEO now is going to have dates between your AIs, but then they'll introduce you. They're like, oh, I was virtually dating the virtual version of that person. You should meet them.
Oh God, this is so
this is what I mean. What is our motivation to even do anything? We have to eat, I guess, still, but like, what are we gonna do? What is a human? Like, do humans even want to have, like, kids don't even want to buy cars anymore. Kids aren't really interested in sex. A lot of them are there's less and less sex happening. It's a real phenomenon. Like, there's less and less social activity happening. And so like, if we're getting certain needs met by a machine, what does that mean? Like, how does that change? That's what I mean by this. I think there's an identity crisis, a major identity. Like, all this talk about identity politics and identity. It's because those are all projections, because there is a massive identity crisis going on, like, because we don't know who we are.
Right.
And so I think, like, I told Amelia this, like, I feel like there's two paths. One goes towards Elon Musk. That's the materialist, the mechanistic, and one goes toward God. And so I feel like there's a massive shift happening. There's like a lot of people getting very spiritual right now, and a lot of people getting and some people are doing both, I'm sure.
Yeah, we're going to evolve into a giant crab god.
Right.
That's been cool.
Well, during COVID, they tried to make it into that spirituality meant that you were right wing. Like if you related to anything through like a spiritual sense of things or whatever, it's like there was such the materialism kind of reached this kind of like apex at that time where we started relating to things as though we ourselves were computers. So that's what it would look like to me. I was seeing a conflation of biology with technology, and then people speaking about things that were biological in nature as though we were just talking about a fucking computer. Machine. And so it just, because
but vice versa. That's
there's
what
no
I do.
mystery. There's no mystery in your relationship to the organism anymore. Like we're treating it that there's nothing mysterious about our being. And that's what to me spirituality is all about, is an acknowledgement of that mystery. And it's like if we live in a world where there's just we don't ever consider a mystery, all you have is secrets. It's either conspiracy or it's on the up and up. Like that's the only options we have. And I see conspiracy theory as kind of like it's a shell before you get to what the real influence is, because that's a topical influence. And even if as bad as that can be, it's still a shell to what is ultimately influencing us, if that makes sense. So it's like we have the shadow, the things that are repressed that we don't want to look at, and then we have this kind of like the skin of the snake that we're all mesmerized by, as though there wasn't a body underneath it. You know what I mean? Like you can peel back the layers and the thing moves forward and it'll keep peeling again and again. But if all we are is fixated on the topical, there's nothing transformative in our experience anymore. We won't transform, we'll be manipulated and we'll be molded.
But it might be like a pendulum thing, right? So like you have usually after a war and a bunch of people die and there's a baby boom, right? So now you've got this sort of cultural World War III, which it's happening right now, right? Like you go and you see how people are dying, and people used to have 13 kids and now they have a cat, and the food has arsenic in the rice. Like the people are dying from more than just soda pop, but it's not just bullets. Like there's a huge lack of people even birthing. It's very Sean Connor, is that right? In the Terminator, like they're killing kids before John Connor, before they're born. They're killing kids before they happen.
Oh yeah.
But what's gonna be then is you're gonna have a world where, and again, we talked about this earlier, corporations need to make people that need corporations. So we have a generation of people that can only communicate through the AI because they own the AI. But eventually, you're gonna end up with people needing to breed. They're gonna be like less people. They'll be freaking out. Corporations will lose the control over AI. And I don't think it will be in the same position it is right now. We have probably a generation here that we're going to see this like traumatic crisis, but this crisis is like a Western crisis. You see like conservatives in other countries, like, you know, the Muslim populations are not having a problem reproducing. Like China and India, only now because of socialism, China is saying, okay, because of the economics, we don't want to reproduce, even though there's no law against it. The kids are just deciding they want to stay inside, right? So we've created this system which is discouraging of anyone to even believe they have the capacity to live in the next generation. But probably that will be a pendulum swing. I mean, this is what scares me about the left conservative right thing, is that we were very, libertarian, like South Park, but I would have considered myself more left than right growing up. And so I'm concerned when it swings back, because I see a lot of the right wing conservative people and they're just as bad. They always were. Like the Christian right can be just as terrifying as the woke, and this is going to be, where are we going to land in the middle? Right.
And it goes beyond the middle too. So that's the thing. It's like when we think of what it means to be centrist, it's kind of like what you were saying before. It's like there's all these different factors that contribute to it. So to just like, it's that position taking issue, and you're like, oh, well, then I'll just be in the middle. Well, the middle isn't always the answer either. It's actually to have a perspective that's transcendent of that binary. Excuse me.
Yeah, and I think it has to be something spiritual that's not of man.
Yeah, I don't think like I could acknowledge a binary.
Invisible.
And that, like, to truly be non-binary isn't what we're seeing from people who generally call themselves non-binary. Because if that were the case, then they wouldn't be dressing up as the other binary. Like to be truly non-binary would be like to be non-dual, which is to transcend the whole thing. But yeah.
Right.
What would that look like visually, though? What would a true person transcending gender look like?
I don't know. You ever seen the show Community? It's their mascot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Pat.
It's Pat. Oh my God! Remember Pat?
Man, I remember.
And Chris.
Yeah.
Pat, I watched a video on YouTube of non-binary people reacting to "It's Just Pat," and they just wanted to be offended, and they succeeded. They succeeded, but like Pat was so much more. That was coming from such a more evolved place than what we have with gender now.
Right.
The whole joke with Pat was that everyone was being polite, and being like, I don't want to like blow up your spot, and you know, you do it so well. I don't want to even, you know, people, and everyone's so turned on by Pat.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot
So,
that
like-
whole dynamic. I forgot all about that.
It's
So
hard
this-
not to
this-
acknowledge Pat's beautiful eyes. I mean, Pat's just, it's the way Pat laughs.
But Julia Sweeney has apologized to the, I don't know if it's like the whole trans community or just the non-binary community.
Who's Julia Sweeney? Is she
Pat.
the one who plays Pat? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Apologized.
Right. She's
Spoiler alert,
apologized
by the way.
For what?
Yeah. In
For
a
being
hostage
awesome.
video, there always are like hostages where they have to, when they do those apologies, it's so cringe.
Julia Sweeney's based. She's cool. Yeah.
But why did she apologize?
Probably because she's retired and she doesn't want her house burned down. I don't know.
Right.
Like, go with the flow, I guess. If you don't have a job anymore, you probably just be like, don't say anything. But it's sad because you're right. Like, Pat also talks about a time when everything like that was new, but people were comfortable with whatever, and they're just asking because they don't want to give her the wrong or him the wrong cake. You know, or they don't want to give them an engendered thing if they're not supposed to. And we're laughing about all these things that are kind of trivial that we engender that don't really matter, right? Like what color your cake isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah,
And
they're
it's
kind of making fun of it. Yeah,
kind of. It is a comedy. Yeah, and so
it's
it's
actually one bit through the whole thing, and it's because they only had that one bit on the show in the segments, and then the whole movie it just plays on this one joke, but they actually managed to do it pretty well because that joke is funny.
The whole point is don't offend Pat. That's
Right.
the whole joke.
Yeah.
And then you have these people that are just looking at it being like, oh, this is so offensive. I'm so offended.
And Pat Pat doesn't get offended. Pat like moves right through it. Anytime anyone ever says anything kind of awkward, Pat just pretends they didn't understand and they just move right by it, you know?
And so that's what I've seen from like drag queens that hang out late night in the Castro is that if somebody talks some shit to them, they always have like the fucking, it's usually pretty raunchy, but they'll come at them with like these comebacks that are like, oh damn. And in my observation, they've held their own. But I haven't been to the Castro in a few years, so I don't know what it's like now, but I know what it used to be like, and it wasn't that long ago.
Being able to do that, to come back and defend yourself and do it in a witty way, and like, you know, that's what young women at Smith are not being taught. So like if you're a woman, if you're a young woman, like on the subway, there's going to be a day some guy's going to like jerk off in your face. Okay. It's just going to happen. Like some guy's going to flash you or whatever. Like, and it's
just
like,
get used to it. Wait, what? Okay. All right.
It was one time.
No, it's two choices.
Let go.
You can be like, oh my God, I'm so offended. Like, which is exactly what he wants. That's what he's getting off to. He's like, oh my God, she's like really uncomfortable. Or you can be like, look right at his dick, look right up at his, really?
Right.
Like,
oh my God.
Or you can like just defend yourself and say, you know what, I'm not into it. Like, move along, you know, like just stand up for yourself. Like, so I don't think women are they're being taught like, oh, this is so this is harming you, and so then they feel they're not being taught to just be like, ew, like your dick is so like weird looking, like, ugh.
You want to talk about Louis C.K.? I'm sorry, I'm getting a bad signal. It's like my favorite subject.
Bad signal.
But Louis C.K., he when he was defined as the predator, like, and so what are his crimes? And you know, I'm sorry, no, you cannot be sexually assaulted on the phone. A. B.
Haven't you heard it when they do that? I know. Okay.
You cannot be sexually assaulted.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Because that happened to me one time and I didn't like it.
You can be terrorized on the phone, but you can't be sexually assaulted on the phone. Okay. I mean, that's what I think. And I did a lot of pranking in my childhood.
With the phone, just not on a phone.
But you can't be sexually assaulted while you're like laughing your ass off next to your best friend. And those are like the two like most damning stories from that whole cycle of cancel this man. And he made a movie called I Love You, Daddy, and everyone should see it. It's
so good.
Pull it out of cancellation. Like
I put it on Twitter. I uploaded the whole movie.
Can
Oh, really?
can this yeah.
I Love You, Daddy, huh? And this was canceled. It got Helen Hunt,
You haven't
John
seen this?
Malkovich. No, I haven't seen it. I will.
Oh my
We
god,
just
dude!
go.
I promise.
I
It's
did it.
done like a Woody Allen movie.
These are all some of
It
my favorite
is.
people.
Is it a drama or is it like a documentary? What
It's a movie.
kind of like a drama?
Yeah.
What like?
No, it's a comedy.
In the
He's a-
style of a Woody Allen movie. So is it
Okay.
funny? I don't know. I mean,
Okay. Yeah, it depends on what era, I guess.
He
It looks
studied
good.
like film.
Oh, I have
he
to see this.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it looks good. It's
Louis
black and
C.K.
white.
is
So
was he like raised in Mexico City and like
Yeah.
so he's everybody's favorite Mexican American, you know?
right.
Mexican Jew.
Yeah.
What's crazy about this movie too is that it's so ahead of where everything went. Like it's a disservice to humanity at large that this wasn't just released.
Hmm.
I did
Surreal.
I did a focus group once, and got paid a pretty penny to talk to people that they said it was for a textbook on human sexuality, and it was about exhibitionism, and so we had to like watch their presentation.
Take off your clothes. Oh.
No, we had to watch their presentation about what
Oh, okay.
exhibitionism is, and then communicate with them about our experiences. Like I still am not sure if this was just somebody who's getting off on this or if it actually fed into a textbook.
Confessional.
But we had to watch their materials and then tell them how we felt about it. But I at the end of it felt very sympathetic towards exhibitionists. I mean, they do have a sexuality where, you know, they're kinked up and they want to not be like appreciated or something. It's like they want to be shocking, and so
Yeah, they don't.
and
Yeah.
It's the same
so-
problems as the Puritans though, right? Like the sex depraved craze, like it's the same thing.
And Louis C.K. was always talking about it in his stand-up. He's always trying to simulate masturbation in his stand-up. Like every act, he's going to do it. And I feel bad. I feel like he tried so hard to make it okay. You know,
Take a dent,
asking
yeah.
people.
Consent. He used the word. Yeah, is this okay? Yeah.
Do you mind if
share
I'm
a short
disgusting forever?
I gotta share a short story because it's so damn applicable, and I keep thinking about it. Where this one time at Burning Man, there was this guy. He was wanking it, and he was like, it was nighttime, and he was kind of off to the side in the shadows, and there was these girls, these women who were banging on drums, and they were like in like booty shorts, and they were doing this whole thing, and he was and people were noticing him. They're like, there's this guy over there. He's just fully whacking it over there, and he was all you could see him just all getting off, you know. And then they decided to surround him with their drums, and they were cheering him on. They were like come, they're like do it like and
Did
I
he just go
witnessed
woo?
yeah, so it just curled in like a turtle, and the guy was just like he was so humiliated, and he tried to run away, and they weren't like moving.
Where you
forward.
going?
"Ah!"
Chase
And he ran across the playa. I just saw this guy take off.
Oh, I was
and
rooting for
everyone was
him,
like,
man.
"Oh,
Me too.
come back!
I was too
do your
actually at
thing."
that point. I was like, well,
Yeah,
it's a bummer.
it's good technique.
Wow,
It doesn't
I
always
like
work
that.
because you could be alone, but in that situation, it worked really well.
Interesting. Yeah, that's good.
A lot of that though
Yeah.
kind of harkens to like people you're talking earlier about sexuality. Like people are afraid of sex now, right? Like, do you think a lot of these kids are afraid that they're going to get in trouble, like Louis C.K., or they're going to be, you know, or worse,
I think
probably?
they're not like playing in the woods when they're little, so they're not like around. I don't think I think part of it is overexposure. Like, ew, like I don't know. I said something to my kids, and it was about the HPV vaccine. I didn't want them to get it, and their dad wanted them to get it or something, and I was like, no, I don't get that, and like you don't need it anyway. It's like not until you're like a few years because it's like a sexually transmitted. They were
It's
like,
hepatitis
ew, like
in their vaccines when
HPV?
they're born. When they're born,
Yeah.
we give them a STD vaccine. Sorry.
I know, it's crazy. They give the HPV now. They recommend it for 9 years old. So they were like, ew, like it's cool now to wait until you're 18. Like it's cool to be a virgin now, Mom. Like nobody's gonna be having sex in their teenager.
What?
And I was like, what? Like really?
Nice.
I don't
world
know.
has
It's like
changed. Yeah.
the world is. I think there's just it's in their fucking face all the time, and it's like that with the woke stuff too. Like they think it's ridiculous. They make jokes about it all the time. Like their high school is just so like saturated with it, and like now they just make jokes about
It's
anytime they
not
see a
cool.
white object or a black object. Like, that's racist. Like, they're just constantly making fun of, like constantly racializing everything because that's what the grown-ups are
That's what they
doing, and
do.
they're making fun of it. They think it's stupid. It's like, so I don't know. Maybe there's something about that with the sex stuff, but I don't know that kids would want to have sex with other. I mean, to have sex with another human being, you have to be with another human being and all of their stuff. And why would you do that if you could just have a porn and have like a buddy that talks about like an AI porn, even better, that knows you and learns you and like knows what you like and like tells you what you want to hear, and you don't have to actually deal with any human stuff. It's so much easier. So I don't know. I'm not very hopeful for sex. for the
Do you think
future
this
of
happened
sex.
before? I mean, like, you think about other periods in history where people were waiting, like, to have sex. Like, they probably all
I mean,
happened right after.
religious.
Well, like I think like the libertine period in England, you have people having sex in the streets, right? Like it was wild. It was the 1660s were the role model for the 1960s in a lot of ways. But then people were dying of syphilis and everything else, and you get this very puritanical reaction in England where everyone's like, we got to be like really careful because you could die
Right.
if you do anything fun, right? And I kind of wonder if you think that might be happening again. Like these kids are like, hey, we remember vaguely wearing masks because everyone's dangerous, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But how disturbing the issue of trans children is, like, we're gonna just, I mean, I can't speak for other women, but I didn't, my shit didn't start to work until I was like until I was like 40, and I already had a child.
30s.
Like your stuff takes time to grow into a woman's body. I mean, maybe some people are like more advanced than I was, and I thought that I was super advanced because I was raised by maniacs. But it's still the connection between sexuality and yourself is this bridge that can only come when you build it.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that has a lot to do with how you view sex with other, like your own sexuality. You can only go so far, or want to go so far with somebody else as you've gone with yourself. So yeah, there should be a lot of self-exploration there.
One of the things that Wilhelm Reich points out is that there's really no, like, you're your own point of reference. And that goes for a lot of things, but it also goes for like what you know of yourself at this point is all you think that it is. And so if you're saturated in relating to sex through technology or whatever, and you relate to things through a certain lens, you could feel that that's just all this could ever be because this is what it is for you. And so that's one of, like, when Reich was talking about coming up against the character armor that he experienced, that people get really defensive if you're pointing things out, even though they're true and they're things that people need to look at, that we all kind of have constructed a paradigm within which we kind of, we project whatever we think things are for, like it's you could, to have self-discovery. Like I've had older people tell me before that they're like, one thing I'll tell you about getting older is get ready for some surprises, because just when you think you know your body, you'll find new things out, and people are susceptible when they're growing up because they're getting to trying to understand what it is that they're even about or what's what. And so it's a very vulnerable time to be taken advantage of,
And the mass psychology of fascism by Reich is all about the sexual repression is really valuable for authoritarianism, and they're like often connected, right? A lot of the time sexually repressed males in the army. Yeah.
What they're doing
that out, they didn't want that.
Like what they're doing to the youngest children is like, it seems so innocent. And before I had a kid, I would say I don't believe in gender essentialism. Like
That's Will Morgan. Thanks.
Freemasons disappeared him. Don't worry.
Wait, I forgot. I was trying to think of a pun with his show, Meta Egg.
Oh, I already hear it in my mind. Yeah. Thanks for that.
Oh yeah. So we're taking these little kids and we're telling them, you know, there is no definitive future for you based on your biology. You get to choose. And so it's like A or B. Okay. So if they choose the one that their body's not going to do naturally, now you have a problem, because now it becomes a big ethical trap of what if you don't medicalize them now? You've told them they get to choose. And so then you've said, you know, if they choose the one that their body's going to grow into naturally, okay, dodged a bullet. Okay. But if they choose the one that that their body's not going to naturally grow into, then
that's going to require corporations to produce products for them to purchase.
Big pharma.
Patient for life. And
God forbid, right? You know.
But it's unethical not to do it psychologically. I mean, not black and white unethical, but it's arguably unethical not to do that because of what you've done to their mind.
Right. Isn't that just like the ultimate trajectory of like what has happened with products over time anyway? Like if you look at like the quality of products shifted in direct correspondence to the shift from people using focus groups and trying to figure out what people wanted so they could sell them what they wanted and to like show them the quality of why they wanted it, to figuring out how to kind of like manipulate people to get them to think that the things that they want are the things that they're telling them that they want. So we're going to tell you what it is that you want so that you'll get it, instead of what do you want? Let's figure this out. You know,
there might be more merit to the second one though, because I've been on the other side of those focus groups in Disney. That was like one of the biggest things that they would do. You'd be, you know, like a quarter of the way in, halfway in a project, and it's like in come the focus groups, and it sucked because you always knew things would change. But one of the things that I feel like we learned really quickly is that focus groups don't even know what the hell they want. Just because you get a bunch of people to sit down and give you their opinion, some of them like have absolutely no conviction over the things that they think that they want. And even when they say the thing, like you're an artist, right? You've been commissioned by somebody that's like, sounds like they know what they want, and you make the thing that they said they want and you show it to them and they're like, oh, that's not actually what I want now that I see it. So there might be some value in those like corporate groups that are actually putting intent into the things that they want you to want.
Both are still happening, but I would argue that the intent to figure out how do we get, like, if you could still have a focus group with the intention to kind of figure out how do we get these people to want the thing that we already are trying to give them. So it's like how do we tweak this, and it's even not just the product itself, but in how it's communicated to you and why you need it. And so you'll see this with like Century of the Self, the Edward Bernays documentary, where through time they shifted their route to get the product to so that you feel this need for it, you know, and they play on people's unconscious desires, and those work better than your conscious desires. The things that you say you want, those aren't the thing. Those are what you really want, you know, or what you know, the kind of getting at the deeper side of that. And that's the reason why Edward Bernays got Freud's writings translated into English and published. Like, he was a part of that because he was conflicted around that, because he was just like, oh my God, these people are so easily led. You know, he saw the value of people waking up to how they were being manipulated while he was doing it. So I'm
considering how many times that this has happened, like, do you feel like it could possibly just be an organic accident that they're, you know, sexually depriving people, drugging them, and turning them into like the exact thing that would be useful for a fascist authoritarian state?
Well, the thing,
generation.
No, I don't think it's a coincidence, and I think there's something about severing our ability or motivation or desire to connect with each other, because if you think about it, that's where our power really is. If we are disconnected, we have no power. It's not about money, it's not about your charisma, it's about people connecting with other people, and intimacy is the glue
But it's
And we can't
starting
have a
with,
we the people if we're not connecting.
but Jody, it's the self. It's the person themselves that's severed from themselves first. How could they then connect with another person?
Ooh, that's Kabbalah.
Yeah.
That's Kabbalah. That's Shekinah and Ze'er in ourselves, separated, and then we see it reflected in the world
But
around us. That's
I don't think but I also don't, I think the process of connecting with yourself is relational and happens with Martin Buber, I am now. I think that the child has, it's, you are your identity. You're never a unit of one. You're always a relational being. And so getting to yourself means going through other people, even if it just means reading them or whatever.
But I was trying to talk about God.
Well, actually, Goy is the other, right? So in Unanimity -1 with Buber, he is talking about God.
Goy.
Right? That's, well, the literal understanding of Martin Buber's I and Thou is like you could break up everything into billions and billions of parts, but really having the smallest thing. Yeah.
It's God. I mean, I think that's in physics too. Like somebody just told me that there is no such thing as a single thing. Everything's relational. I don't know. Just every time I do mushrooms, I'm like, everything's a relationship. Like, you know, like the vibrations are always like, the vibrations are always interacting, and like nothing exists on its own and all that. Like the paradox of individuation, like becoming authentic and individuating, like really you're going closer to like something ancient and bigger, like than the people around you. Like it's like a paradox. You're individuating at the same time you're becoming closer to everything in the source.
Oh, you're a Nirvana fan? Oh, tell me Four Noble Truths.
I don't know.
My dad would always respond to that one with like, yeah, but you still got to go to work tomorrow. Like, yeah, we're all one.
What would the Buddha say? You have to do the, you have to, what is it? Meet with God and then do the laundry the next day or something. Just read that. Like you still have to wake up and do the laundry.
You should do it the same day, probably. Even maybe while you're doing the laundry.
You definitely need to do the laundry if you have been hanging out with God the night before. You should probably definitely do the laundry.
So so this is funny to me because it seems like even at the end of the day, we still have things that we hold on to. Integration is important. Relationships are important. Even like if you're toying with the conservatives, there's the conservationism that we care about, right? We still are trying to save and hold on to things. And it seems like there's still like, are we going to rebrand this like woke, right? Or what do we do? Like, what do we do so we can combine and save all of these things and not make it the right or the left really anymore, but just like
RFK Jr. I think that's what you're looking
for. Every time. No, I'm okay.
Well, I think it's going away from fear-based decisions, because that's the manipulation that takes us away from our intuition and leads us to RFK. Sorry.
No, I think there's something to that. You can do the fear, or you can do the other thing, the opposite of fear. So, Russell Brand, what did you say? He said the opposite of my friend Jenny was like, how did Russell Brand become the philosopher of our time? He said the opposite of faith is not doubt, it's certainty. I don't know why I thought of that, but
that's actually a David Bowie song.
He ripped it off from David Bowie.
That's how he did it.
Oh my God.
Well, I mean, RFK can't be that bad, and maybe Taylor Swift isn't either if she's trying to secretly.
Is that RFK?
Yeah, there's a little conspiracy theory here that.
Wait, are they hanging out?
That's Zena LeVay.
Yeah, Zena LeVay. But
I heard she dated his son.
Something like that. Taylor Swift is rumored to be behind RFK Jr.'s run for president to destabilize and overthrow both the Republican Democratic mafias. Come on, I want to believe.
Well, I saw how this came about from this person because they were initially responding to it where somebody was showing the picture of RFK with who was it, Roger Stone or something, and some people, and they're like, "See, this is proof that he's secretly working for MAGA or whatever," and so they responded to it with this image of Taylor Swift with RFK. Like, see, here's what more proof do you need? You have a picture of two people together. Boom.
Yeah, he is.
He's really cute. Is that really RFK? I didn't know that he looked like that. Is that really him?
This is the thing, man.
This is the best endorsement he's gotten so far. Jody's
Look at his arms.
Dude, those shorts,
nice
dude.
Arms.
Doing all right.
Nice shorts. Is that what you said, Andre?
Dude, you gotta judge a dude, but if he has those like past the
Cargo
knee shorts, I'm not voting for someone whose shorts go past the knees.
I have
Ever.
mixed feelings about Taylor Swift, but she
He's a
I'm cool
psyop,
with Xena as Shrek, but Taylor Swift, yeah.
after October 7th, things were a little hairy in New York City in the Jewish communities. People were really on edge, and then there was this warning that went out to all the day schools, like there's going to be a global day of jihad. Security got really tight. So the global day of jihad was supposed to be Friday the 13th, and then I live on the same block.
The Freemasons got scared too.
Yeah,
I live on the same block as a movie theater. I just happened to notice that Taylor Swift's movie was coming out on Friday the 13th.
Yeah,
and I just and the image of it, which was so nice, they didn't like Photoshop her organs out of it. I was like, you know what? I think we're gonna be okay. It felt a little bit like we're being protected. We're being bathed in her glowing light.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift is quite literally in my mind a DARPA project.
Right.
Really? Oh my God!
Absolutely.
Wait,
Absolutely,
is this all
she is.
Taylor Swift?
This is the clone.
Wait.
This is Taylor Swift's a clone of Xena Shrek, right?
Oh,
Not
Xena
really,
Shrek?
but kinda, right? This is Anton LaVey's daughter, right?
Who's Anton
The
LaVey?
Church of
Anton
Satan.
LaVey, the Church of Satan. Anton LaVey,
Oh,
the bald guy,
she's cute.
Church of Satan.
okay.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and her name is Shrek, and that's
She's-
where the
She's
book
really
comes from.
cute.
Yeah. She's really into like Vedic magic and like Seti.
Where does she live,
prayers.
and how old is she?
Probably New
And
York.
is she single? No.
Berlin based at this point. They love me in Berlin, baby. She is what?
How old is she?
I don't know.
Born in 1967.
Oh, okay.
Wait, so she's like 4 years older than me.
They're not saying exactly when she was born, but 1967 is when she was announced to the world, I guess. That's cool. She doesn't tell us your birthday because she's into the witchcraft. She doesn't want astrologers that know like how to track her down.
Yeah, you
She
protect
lives in
yourself from
Berlin.
that black magic.
Or she was never technically born because it was a clone to begin with.
Oh, that's
I don't know.
interesting.
Moonchild.
I never thought of that. So you know that in 1967, Anton LaVey was a technical advisor for Roman Polanski while he was shooting Rosemary's Baby. As a matter of fact, it's rumored that he's in the
Right
scene,
back
in the
to Mia
impregnation
Farrow.
scene, but that's not true. But anyway, 67.
That's Summer of Love,
Child.
too. 67.
Just saying, 68. Rosemary's Baby came out as with 2001: Space Odyssey, but yeah. You know,
Well-
by the way, Polanski is one of those people when we were talking about art before, where it's like you're like, I really enjoy watching Polanski films. A lot of them, most people haven't seen because of they're not really advertised here, except for maybe The Pianist, where he got like the standing ovation from the very people that kind of me too years later or whatever. But anyway, yeah, no, he's one of those people that it's like
I
can't
totally
not
forgot
watch
that The
this
Pianist was done by
art.
Polanski. That's crazy. My mom made me go see that with her. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. But anyway.
Well, we're pretty much at the last few minutes. Is there anything that you wanted to make sure that you told the world that you were afraid that they wouldn't know? I'm like, they probably need to know this, right?
Are you talking to me?
Probably. I mean, it could be
any of us.
Yeah. Anybody who's got pressing, there's the things that we think about. We're like, well, really, I didn't tell them this,
I would say your mind is very hackable. It's more hackable than you know. So just make sure you're the one hacking it. That's my advice.
That's good advice. It's true.
I found something out about myself this week, or maybe like a little revelation, and it's that self-aware hypocrites are my favorite kind of people, and people that are hypocrites in denial are my least favorite people. And I just came to that realization recently.
You just found that out? Oh, man.
Well, you know what it is? I've always known it, but I've never been able to put it into such succinct wording.
Yeah, self-aware hypocrites aren't as bad as you'd think they are, right? Like a lot of like religious zealots who know they're not really like living up
They're
to
the
their own
best.
standards.
No, they're literally the best kind of hypocrite.
They could be pretty funny, actually. Yeah.
So, like,
But the
wait,
ones
an
who
example of a self-aware hypocrite is like a religious zealot.
Like Alex Jones is a self-aware hypocrite, right? Like he's telling people how to live, but he drinks a bottle of scotch.
Okay.
Like I forget the name of him, but like the Christian, what's the name of that? Like the pop church thing, Hillsong, like the Hillsong priest minister guy who was telling everyone that he was like a Jonas Brother boy band guy while he was having like 16 affairs quietly, not telling anybody. That's an example, right? Yeah.
Okay, I
Well,
get it.
David, you got
we got things to plug.
Yeah.
We got I guess we have a little bit already. We got a new album, Sun Cost. And we also have Attack of the 50-Foot Woman with Sun Cost.
Oh yeah, I saw you posted
I
that.
just uploaded that to Twitter last night.
With
So,
Rose
you
McGowan.
It starts with Rose McGowan at the beginning of it. Yeah.
Let's get to the MK
But if
Ultras,
you can also get to it, you can get to it through mine. Why is my stuff unavailable? Did I get something happen to me? I think
probably
something just happened
it's
to
probably
my
I need to
Twitter.
load it or something. It'll probably be okay.
No, I might have had something happen to my Twitter. I don't know.
Oh dear.
Oh boy.
Bum, bum,
Uh
bum,
oh.
bum.
That's crazy. Yeah, go. This is replies. Yeah, I don't
This
know.
is probably something to do. You're reposting something from JFK RFK Jr. and he's not. That post has been
Yeah,
deleted.
maybe. But you can get it on Nahadar's Twitter as well, unless if it's removed from there. It looks like I just got in trouble or something.
Well, let's hope not.
So bad.
Nehedork? That's not right, is it? Yeah,
that's
Nehedork.
it.
That's hilarious. I love it. Following now. Suncoast, really beautiful. Oh, weird. Yeah.
Yeah. My stuff right now.
But you can go to Bandcamp and you can listen to it on the Bandcamp right here, which is pretty sweet. Bandcamp is legit. Check it out. Nehedork. Everybody pray for David's Twitter account, which you know how it goes.
My stuff is on my phone, so I don't know.
Yeah, it must be something.
I think you're okay. I think someone else's post got taken down that everyone was like quoting.
Yeah. If we go further along the highlights here.
Well, my stuff still shows up on my phone, so that's a relief. But I'm surprised that it's not showing
I
up.
love your profile pic.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you,
David. I love your profile pic. It's so you can just come on our show anytime.
It's Linda Lovelace.
Oh wait, she's Deep Throat, right?
It's actually an
Deep
actress
Throat?
playing Linda Lovelace, but
Linda Lovelace. Yeah.
Linda Lovelace is
Deep
Deep Throat.
Throat.
Marilyn Chambers is behind the green door.
Yeah.
Marilyn Chambers.
Really important.
Classics.
And then let me go to the Bandcamp thing. I'm gonna put the Bandcamp link into the description for everybody so you can find the music there. And then also make sure you guys go to jodyshaw.com, which has links to everything, music, activism. You can go to YouTube videos here, click on music there. Takes you right to the YouTube page.
It's a very minimalist website there.
I'm a huge fan of minimalist website. This kind of tells me like you're legit. Like I like it a lot, actually. This is
HTML. It's HTML.
Yeah, exactly. I know people that like make websites for people, and then this is what their website would look like. So you're doing all right. This is really
Thanks, Andreas.
You earned some cool points with the nerds. And then here's Jody Shaw's band.
Yeah. There's the library rep. Lots more music coming out soon. I'm working on it very quickly.
Dude, this is like appropriation of kelp right here. I don't know.
I know. I've been told that it's questionable.
It's right there next to mermaids. Like it's
I said, but it's kelp. Yeah. Like,
what? She's an Undine. You can't tell she's an Undine personified.
I think it's pretty clear. So yeah, make sure you guys go to the Bandcamp to check out Jody, and then also from there you can find more of the YouTube things like the Jody music. There it is. Yeah, Jody music right there. Easy to find. Sweet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then make sure you found the Nehedar Bandcamp right here. Cool.
Yeah, I have a website too. It's nehedar.com, but everything goes to the
sweet. Yeah. So everybody make sure you check this out. This is the kind of music that we get involved with, that David is like helping make some art for. That's really interesting, clever stuff. So
also, if you hear a sample from like a movie or something in Amelia's music, it came from me. I recommend, if you're going to listen to her music, the song Leviathan. It's one of my favorites. Putting that out there.
Is that because there's a lot of samples in it?
It's because of the song itself. I just love that song.
Well, David, there's a lot of stuff that has a lot of my work and was very influenced by a lot of David's ideas. Like, for example, I have an album called Diana's Mirror, and David talks about the Golden Bough all the time. So after he told me to write a song about this, and then a year later I figured out my angle. And then
she
a few
researched
songs.
the hell out of the Golden Bough and came. There's so many treatments of the Golden Bough in different people's work from people I really respect, including Stanley Kubrick and Jim Morrison. And then it's always from a man's perspective, even though the Golden Bough itself centers around the princess. And so in this song, she sang it from the perspective of the princess in the situation with the guy challenging the king and marrying the king's daughter. So the princess doesn't get laid until the king dies. So she's basically just like welcoming the death of her father so that she can,
I also like songs from the perspective of female true believers, because I feel like that's a kind of a weird, like even when I was really involved in Judaism, I wrote a song called Sota, which is from the perspective of a woman who had to participate in this ritual where she was called an adulterer, but she's a true believer. So she's doing the ritual that the rabbis are making her do, and she says all this traumatic stuff is happening to her, but like she was just turned on and she thought God wanted her to, have a good time. So she's just kind of going with her own natural connection to God, and then all society, the man-made structure is like enacting on her, but her faith kind of carries her through all of it. So I love embodying, like,
we will have to get you on to talk about the Kohenots and like the idea of we're doing like a Jewish Monday every Monday now. So
cool.
I'll have to be part of that.
By the way, somebody in the comments asked if I have a YouTube channel, and I do, but my SYNCBook page, that web page that has a bunch of Nahadar's albums with other films, including I Smile Back with Sarah Silverman and her album O Syzygy, and the movie Men, with 2 albums together that we call the Green Album. And there's all kinds of stuff on there. So if you go to the syncbook.com/syncmediaresearch, it's there. Her stuff is there as well.
Yeah. So everybody check out the SYNCBook. Never forget. Never forget. All right. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I hope we do it again soon.
That was great. I loved it.
All right.
It was nice meeting you.
Take care.
Nice
Yeah,
to meet you.
likewise.